Michael Crichton gave me the book to read when we were working on ER, which I was going to direct as a feature film, that Michael had written about his own experiences, you know, in medicine and in medical school and when he was an intern. And I asked him one day what he was doing next, what kind of book was he writing, and Michael said that he really could only give me a taste. And he said, all I can tell you, because all my books are secret, this book is about dinosaurs and DNA. And it changed my life, and I think it changed his, because I immediately lost interest in ER as a movie and started pumping him for news about what this was all about. It was so absolutely intriguing to be able to say it in a single bite like that. And that was the beginning of our relationship in evolving Jurassic Park into a film. We didn't intend to revolutionize anything. I was going to make this movie by the old standards of go motion animation, you know, claymation, one frame at a time. It was good enough for Ray Harryhausen. Phil Tippett was the best in the business at this point, and Phil had done some tests. It still looked like go motion, but when you get involved in the DNA of a story, you forget the effects are a little bit still jumpy or jerky, and you go with the story. I was hoping Jurassic Park would succeed on a story level until one day Dennis Muren told me about something he was working on up at ILM called computer animation. I knew a lot about computer animation because I had done a couple of films that just used a little computer animation, but not for a main character, not for a starring character that was going to be, you know, the marquee draw for the entire endeavor. And he started doing tests, and the tests that Dennis Muren did is what revolutionized the business.
It was the first time I remember openly defying my parents. I was about 15 years old, maybe 16, and the only thing they could do to really punish me for any reason, if I'd been disrespectful in class or anything else, was to take away movies. That's what I love to do, and so I was grounded from seeing movies for several weeks. And so on June 11th, the night before, a friend of mine worked at the movie theater and told me, we're going to screen Jurassic Park at midnight with just the theater employees, if you can get here. So I snuck out of the house and I put the pillows under the bed, under the covers, and I rolled the car slowly down the hill. And I told them years later that this is what I'd done, and I've apologized openly for that. I don't encourage other young people to do it, but it was a very indelible memory, and it was the first time I'd heard digital sound. It was at the Grand Lake Theater in Oakland, California. It's a big, old, beautiful movie palace, and there were just 4 of us, and it was almost like a private screening. And I didn't know what to expect because he was so good at not revealing anything. And I had seen a couple little clips, and I actually hadn't read the book, and which actually I considered to be a great gift because I didn't know what was going to happen. And it was, it's one of the most thrilling films ever made. And so to have that memory at that particular moment in time is a gift.
Technologically, it was a benchmark for the entire industry because here were characters that were digitally created on a computer that looked completely authentic in any form of lighting or even atmospheric condition. We had the digital T-Rex and rain, but I think the outstanding thing that a lot of people don't really realize, because a lot of the thunder has been taken by the digital revolution that Jurassic Park created, that Stan Winston made full-size dinosaurs that were used 80% more than the digital dinosaurs. There's only about 58 digital dinosaur shots in the first Jurassic Park movie. Everything else was covered by actual full-scale replicas of fully mechanical, the T-Rex, the trike, the sick trike, even the brachiosaur eating the branches that Grant and the kids were feeding him from the tree. And so, in a sense, there was still the analog and the digital working hand in hand on Jurassic Park. And I think if there's a benchmark, it's that benchmark between the greatest mechanical animals ever created, in my opinion, in history, and the first digital characters rendered, that basically drew you to see the film. I got busy doing other things and kind of forgot about Jurassic Park. But a lot of people that I bump into that I'd never met before will remind me by simply saying, when is the next Jurassic Park coming out? And that that accumulated after a while, and I started to then put some thought into it.
I got a call from Frank Marshall after I directed a very small film called Safety Not Guaranteed, and Steven saw it, and we came in and we spoke for a little while, and we talked, you know, not about necessarily even what this film was going to be, but about why people love this franchise, why people love these stories, and what are the elements that have connected with people over 22 years that we wanted to try and recapture for a new generation. And it was a great conversation, and we all agreed that it was going to be about the story and about the characters and having a narrative that was going to draw people in, because that's what makes you believe in the dinosaurs, is if the people feel real.
I think the deciding factor was Colin himself, because I had seen Safety Not Guaranteed, and I felt that the very last scene of Safety Not Guaranteed was what convinced me that Colin was the right person to direct Jurassic World. That, combined with the fact that he was completely enthusiastic, both as a filmmaker and as a fan, but also had a story. He had a story to tell. He didn't just come in and say, I'd like to render my services directing the 4th installment. He came in with an actual story, and just on paper, even before there was a screenplay, his story worked. But when I say the last scene in Safety Not Guaranteed, the film could have stayed a small movie up until the last, literally, 45 seconds. It could have stayed a very small, independent Sundance film. But he took a leap of faith with the audience and those characters that we weren't believing knew what they were talking about. And when this character that you doubted for most of the film suddenly proves to all of us that we were wrong and he's right, Colin stepped into the mainstream, the commercial mainstream. And because I flew out of my seat when I saw the last scene of that movie. Frank Marshall showed me the film. And that's when I knew that if Colin, you know, was good in the meeting, he was going to get the job.
Well, you know, initially, there were a couple elements that were there when we showed up, and you know, Steven had the idea to make it a fully functioning theme park, and we thought that was incredible. I really felt like we should enter this park through the eyes of a child, which we do in the film, because that's what we are when we think of a fully functioning Jurassic Park. And then the other idea that he brought forward, which I thought was fascinating, is let's make a movie about our relationship with animals on our planet right now, but replace them with dinosaurs. And we cage animals, we view them in zoos, we use them for agriculture, we use them in weaponry for war, and taking off from that idea and exploring, you know, what if humans and dinosaurs have been coexisting for a while and we get to go to the next level of that relationship. There were a lot of really interesting themes and ideas in that, so we just grabbed onto that and ran with it as far as we could. There was a moment early on when we had shot a scene in the film where Chris Pratt this dinosaur has escaped and he's hiding underneath this crane, and we'd shot it, and Steven had looked at the dailies and he said, no, you need one more shot. We need to show the scale of this animal versus this massive crane and this tiny human. And he drew it on a notepad and took a photo, and I still have this. It's this hand-drawn picture of a dinosaur and a human and the scale between them, and we went and we shot it. It's in the movie. And things like that, being able to step back, and it was actually helpful that he was able to be looking at these things on a daily basis, but be a bit removed from it, and he could see the forest for the trees. He could see what I couldn't, and looking at it on a macro level was so helpful for me. I'm in there in the mud and the dirt underneath this crane all day, and he was able to say, no, this one more thing.
I thought he had the chops for this, and Colin believed in him, and I really believed in him too. So it was a bit of a risk, and of course when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, we all thought we were really smart. Even though we didn't make Guardians of the Galaxy, they made us look really smart. But look, Chris is a wonderful actor. The important thing is he's has a strong screen presence. He has a tremendous sense of humor, and he's a team player. And so he's going to go all the way with his career. He's really going to go far.
The international cast is just part of it being an international movie. I don't consider this a movie for America. It's a movie for the world, because this movie is beloved all over the world. And we went out of our way to not only make Jurassic Park feel like Jurassic World, excuse me, feel like a real place that you could go, but to have signs in all different languages, and you hear throughout the park, all of the announcements are in different languages. So it really feels like a place that everybody on the planet will not only can go, but will want to go. What was difficult was making it feel as grounded in a science as possible, because that's one of the things that these movies have subsisted on forever, is that it felt that even though it was sci-fi, it was based in some science that was happening around us. And right now, I'm sure a lot of people have dogs that are hybrids of various breeds, and it's something that we know. And we thought we could take that and build it into something fearsome that had certain attributes from various animals that would have been incorporated into it. And one of the other advantages that we had is, because this park isn't entirely reliant on mosquitoes anymore, we were able to have an underwater reptile that was a new addition to this film. And I remember, I think it was you in person, I showed you this image of the Mosasaurus coming out of the water and eating a shark. And I kind of realized in the moment, oh God, he's eating a shark. Is Stephen going to think that I'm making some kind of statement about Jaws here? And I wasn't. And you were on board with it. And I think that the idea of creating something new that is going to eat one of the most fearsome predators that we know on our planet for lunch was exciting. And so we tried to tie these animals into animals that we know as much as possible.
Right. Well, the first movie, took a lot of pain to establish how intelligent the raptors were, and that sort of is proven when the raptor learns how to open the door when the kids are hiding in the kitchen, and and so we've established early on, and I think Jack Horner and other paleontologists have also figured out, just based on the fossil record, that the raptors were one of the most intelligent of all the animals, and so that intelligence is a bonus for Jurassic World, because it plays into the plot in a very important, significant way.
I didn't feel like we reinvented them. They're still dangerous predators.
Right.
And we found this balance. We found, there was this character, and this was an idea that Stephen had actually a long time ago in this process, to have someone who has a relationship with these fearsome predators in the same way that there's guys out in Africa who will stick their heads in the mouths of lions. And we watch these YouTube videos of these guys, and they seem insane, and it was fun to put a little bit of, someone's kind of crazy to do that, and it makes them a little more interesting. And look, I mean, the raptors certainly aren't entirely friendly at the beginning, middle, or the end of this movie, and we certainly didn't want to defang them in any way.
Right.
We just wanted to take this relationship that had been evolving over all three pictures to the next level. What I learned from social media is be very careful what you say and think everything through. Right. But no, what I didn't realize at first is that, not that people don't care. I knew people cared, but I think I was a bit surprised at how very carefully everyone pours through every single bit of information, and it made me start to really think about that tool and to be able to use it to give pieces of information that we were really interested in people having slowly over the process and make people feel engaged. I just acted as if I was one of them, and I am one of them, and I knew, if they knew we'd been shooting for 3 months, I'd like to feel like I'm a part of that, and I was able to hopefully make them feel like they were a part of it. I was excited to be there. I think and everyone, Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, Ty Simpkins, who's the biggest Jurassic Park fan you're going to find, to be able to be surrounded by people who were so thrilled. They knew it was a special time. They knew it was a special moment in their careers and just in their lives as movie fans. And that was, that spirit that we had on set, I think, is infused into the movie, and you can feel it, and it's something that I can imagine Stephen's other films were like, because I can I can feel it in those movies. I showed my son Raiders of the Lost Ark this weekend for the first time, and there's an infectious energy in that movie. And the things that I love about Steven's films is it just makes you feel like you want to be on that adventure with those characters. And I don't think it just applies to big adventures. I'd apply it to my own first film. I want to be in the back seat of that SUV as they're going to find a guy who maybe can travel through time. And the ability to create a group of actors who has that energy, I know it transfers to the screen. I know you feel it. Yeah, you know, and it wasn't just this movie. It was a lot of movies that Steven was responsible for, and so I didn't just want to infuse the spirit of Jurassic Park into this movie. It was the feeling that I had watching a lot of Amblin films, and the fact that this is an Amblin film is something I'm very proud of, and I see that as a particular way that a movie makes you feel, and I consider, to me, Amblin movies are kind of, you know, movies for adults made by children. And that's what I wanted to infuse into this. I feel like I was a child getting to make a movie with, you know, all the big lights and the cameras, and I think you feel it when you watch it. That's where I turn into an audience member, is when I see these shots come in, and it not only looks spectacular, but it feels it's so intense to watch these animals in the same space as these actors, and I forget that they're plates. I forget what we shot, and it feels like we just shot this dinosaur. It's extraordinary, and that's a place where I just sit back and, you know, become a fan immediately.